Okay, so we have this presentation available on YouTube regarding Catherine Ann Fitz. And the question is one of just whose side is she really on? This is really the issue more so than not. And the same thing is true with the Hillsdale College. Them and there's another one. I don't know. I followed them for years, and I tried contacting them, trying to get them to look into these things, to be a little bit more aware of just where things are going and how they went sideways and so on. But I've discovered in the interim that it's pretty much of anybody that's an influencer out there. It's a one-way street. They're not looking for input is what it comes down to, and so it's really difficult to get an audience with these people because they ostensibly know pretty much everything that needs to be known, and yet they don't. And Catherine Ann Fitz is really one among the many that is can be looked at in that way. Let me see if I get my adjustment here. So, and she's talking about central banks, and you'll notice here that I haven't started the thing going, and I'm just going to let it go, and I'm going to do the CCs so that, I'm going to, well, this is YouTube, so I'm going to skip that. I'm going to try to keep control of the commercials, but I doesn't see that, here we go. So that you can kind of read along while I'm making a commentary if you choose to do so. But one of the first things that a person needs to look at and see for yourself and understand the significance thereof is this little thing over here. This is the American flag, as we read all the stars and stripes. And then this is the other one over here. I think that's, one of the presidential flags. And the significance, I'm sure many people have heard of this, and what it amounts to is that it's the fringe. It's the Admiralty fringe, and you've more than likely heard about it more than once. And it's still here. And it's been here since about 1860 something when we started our embarking upon the wars that we've been enduring. And you have to realize that the American flag, this is not the only one. There's another one. This is the war flag. We have a peace flag. And of course, they keep that one in the closet because we're at war. And so they don't want people to realize that we're not at peace. Because we need to be a war machine. And so this is the thing that is of paramount importance in the sense that the very thing that started all of this in 1776 was the fact that we were under international law or admiralty law. They're in Roman civil law, they're all basically structured the same way, with a central authority, an emperor, a general, on and on. Somebody that's got we know one of those things here. Got to figure out how to get rid of this. She's talking. Okay. I thought it was a commercial. So, in any case, like I said, in 1776, the very thing that we did with the Declaration of Independence was to make the attempt to set up a republic where we would not be under international law. No central government. That was the way that the whole thing was set up initially, and it still is. It's just that we haven't been using it. And I went to the trouble of diagramming this and I've got another video, but this is the diagram of the UCC, which we'll get to, and this is the one that why didn't it come up? Oh, there it is. It's not. It's behind. And this is a diagram that anybody that studies enough. In this case, I was using Lee Brobst's book on the Republic, and it essentially sets up the way that they put it together, and the fact that it's a federation. It's not a federal entity in the sense that it's not intended to be a central government like we have today. And anybody who takes the time and trouble to put something like this together will understand what's going on. And I have another video that you can probably find. And what we do have in its place is this. And this is what I call the Republic lost. And again, I'm not going to go into the details of this, but again, if you study it, what you're going to find out is that we have essentially two Congresses. And I mean, we are supposed to have a Congress of freemen. Now, that's a whole discussion in itself. And that's a real rare breed. There's very few of them in existence today. They're almost, what do they call that when they're extinct? And so what we have today instead is a Congress of citizens. See, these are United States citizens that are not freemen. And the idea originally was that the Congress would be made up of freemen. And these freemen would be responsible. Just like you're responsible when you go to war. And the chances are pretty good that you're not going to make it back from war. Of course, they don't talk about that unless, push comes to shove. But it should be the same for the senators and the representatives. They're, in a certain sense, in a life or death struggle, and they need to have their lives on the line. So that if they screw up, they are responsible. They're punished. They're taken, whatever it takes. People need to be aware that this job has consequences. And you can't just whitewash it and throw more money at it. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it was intended to work. And this is what's been working ever since. We've got this bunch of Congress people that pick a president, which is essentially the emperor or the Führer, the king, and they run the whole show. And supposedly the Congress is authorizing all these things, but it's the Congress is paying attention to the gut bucks. And they're usually bought and sold accordingly. And so it's the old thing of, is the dog wagging its tail or is the tail wagging the dog? Congress is a dog in this picture. And it's a real issue. And so what is it with Catherine that she's supposedly, if I can get back to this now, I'm not entirely, so yeah, I guess I'm going to have to minimize this too. This is something we'll have to look at possibly, because this is what you're supposed to know. And so now I got to get back to Catherine. Yeah, and so she's going to talk about the bank and its control. And here's the thing that Catherine is not talking about, and which is, to me, tells the tale as to what is going on as far as the can't have the window. This thing here. When you start talking about the whole situation with our money, so-called money, we don't have money. Haven't had money since somewhere after 1933, somewhere in that vicinity. Let's see if I can get Catherine back. Yeah, here she is. And so this is the real deal as far as understanding the difference between the two. And if Catherine is not discussing the difference between paying your debt and discharging your debt, she's hiding things. And the question becomes one of, does she know? Because if she doesn't know the difference and she doesn't know the Uniform Commercial Code well enough to be able to tell you the difference, and then she's incompetent. I mean, she shouldn't be having anything to do with, because essentially all the things that she's talking about has to do with discharge, and it basically is pretending that discharge is not anything different from payment. They're basically the same thing. And so whatever she says here is more, what do you call that? Indoctrination. They've spent over 100 and some years indoctrinating the people of America into believing that we have this democracy that was supposedly set up by the founding fathers, which was the furthest thing from their minds. They set up a republic that was of the new order of the ages. It was completely different from any other republic. And Ben Franklin was concerned that we weren't going to keep it. And we didn't. And Catherine should be telling people about how Ben Franklin was concerned about this and why he was concerned, and why it is that we have what we have isn't what Ben wanted or the people that he was hanging out with. And everything that I'm saying about Catherine is true for Hillsdale College. I've written to these folks and tried to explain to them that the whole business of international law is a separate entity. The so-called democracy was set up exclusively for the purpose of handling international relations out of Washington, D.C., and nothing else. The whole idea, I had another diagram. If you look at the, I don't know, I mean, this is all I have a whole thing on these various diagrams, and see the one that here. And the idea of this is that the Washington, D.C., you see, is here as the diamond. And it handles international relations and nothing else. And your international relations, which are domestic, which is to say interstate, that's the only thing that Washington, D.C. has any say on. Other than that, they have no jurisdiction whatsoever on anybody in the Union. In any of the states of the Union, there is no federal jurisdiction. And Larry B. Kraft wrote this up. There's a brief on it, if you can find it, and goes very thorough into establishing the absence of federal jurisdiction. And why is it that day after day we have the state of California, which is a federal enclave? It is not among the states of the Union. California state is one of the states of the Union. The state of California is one of the federal enclaves that's located in Washington, D.C. The state of California is a business. It's an incorporated business. It's on Dun & Bradstreet, along with all the other so-called states of states. So it's a central government. And of course, we've sort of known that. We figured it out. A lot of people have, understand that that's what's going on. And it's not, it was never intended to be that way, and they shouldn't be doing it. And in no uncertain terms. And so that, I get back here, you can see that, she's going on, and it's really a question of whether is she going to come up and tell us like it is. Is she going to explain to you how the Uniform Commercial Code works? You see, that's what that was the thing we've been getting here every time I try to. This here is a diagram that goes over Let me see if I can get that. There we go. Goes over the negotiable instruments and how the difference between the two and what you have to do to make them work and how to and so on. And this is available online. You just have to look for it. And so this is what I'm getting at is that that people aren't looking for it, and they need to look for it and understand what's the deal and why isn't Catherine and Fitz bringing this forward to all Americans and letting them know we don't have money. We haven't had money since 1933, and that the whole way that you use discharge instead of payment is something that everyone, and you're expected to know this. This is the other thing. If you claim to be a United States citizen, the presumption at law is that you know all 52 titles of the United States Code and you're familiar with top to bottom, front to back of the Uniform Commercial Code. When you stand in front of the judge, his presumption is that you know and understand both of these things and another 12 items to boot. And of course, most people don't even know what the UCC is, let alone understanding how it works. And I'm beginning to wonder not Catherine knows how it works, or even the people at Hillsdale College. This is the thing, and this is what's of an essence, because we have to understand this to know what's going on and how they've managed to indoctrinate everybody into believing that there's really no difference between money and currency, because all money is a currency, but not all currencies are money. And you have to know this. If you have to know what that means, if you've got a republic that uses money, or you have a democracy that uses currency. And what is it that you get when you're using this currency? Well, have you ever heard of rampant inflation? I mean, among a number of other things, and I'm not going to go into that. My point here is that you need to understand what's at issue here, and the fact that even people like Catherine Fitz, who is supposedly on our side, and Hillsdale College as well, and that I don't remember the name of the other one, they're all trying to make it out like they've, the heritage, that the founding fathers and all this stuff, and they've got it, they've left the thing, it's just, they've left the republic high and dry and gone off on this other thing, and, well, I'm not going to, you just need to know this, and you need to know it sooner than later, because they're not going to be able to do anything with this current situation until the people really know what's going on and what's happened to their money and how can they get it back. So I'm going to leave it at that, and hopefully you'll do something to where did I put the oh gosh, I guess I can get it up here. Oh, there it is. So anyway, have a good one.